Good morning, students. I'm here to talk to you today about all these instruments on the table. We have a lot here at the Soulsbyville Band Room, and they all need to be organized. So I'm going to need a little bit of help organizing all these instruments. But luckily, every instrument is a part of a family. There's 4 families of instruments in the instrument world. Well, let's go ahead and explore them. 2 of these families use wind to make a sound, and the other 2 do not. So why don't we do the wind ones first? And the first instrument family we're going to learn about is the woodwinds. And woodwinds sometimes are made of wood, just like this ocarina right here. Almost all woodwinds have holes in the instrument. And that's how we make the different sounds. There's very rarely there's a woodwind that doesn't, but there's a reason. It's because woodwinds can also have reeds. It's just a little piece of wood. In order to make a sound, it needs the reed. But again, not all woodwinds need a reed. For the most part, woodwinds have holes, almost all of them. So when we end up hearing sounds, we can change the notes by plugging up the holes. So we change the sound by plugging the holes on a woodwind, and it uses wind. Wood, wind. The other family of instruments is called brass, and usually they're made of metal. But not always, because this is a brass instrument. Even though it's not made of metal, this is one of the first brass instruments. Because brass instruments have only 2 holes, the one where you blow into with your air, and the one where it comes out. So a brass instrument ends up sounding like this. And you'll notice brass instruments do not have holes. So that's the big way we tell the difference between the woodwinds with the holes and the brass instruments, no holes, except the one you blow into and where it comes out. Let's talk about our 2 families that do not use wind. And the first is called strings. And that one's pretty easy to classify because it has strings on those instruments. So if the instrument has strings, then it is a string instrument. Except the piano, but we'll get into that. So a string instrument would be something like the guitar. And if you look close, it's got strings. String instruments have strings like the guitar. And the last instrument family is the most numerous instrument. It is the percussion. And even clapping using your hands, that's a percussion instrument. But one of the classic percussion instruments we have is the tambourine, because you can hit it, you can shake it, and it makes a sound. So any instrument that you hit, shake, is a percussion instrument. So let's go over those 4 families again. We have the woodwinds. They have holes. They're sometimes made of wood, and sometimes they have reeds. We have the brass. It's usually made of metal, and it always has hole, hole, blow into it. We also have the strings. Remember, strings have strings, like the guitar. String instruments have strings. And finally, we have the percussion instruments, and that's it. So let's take a look. I've got all these instruments out on the table, and I figured you guys could help me classify them into their family. We've got to find out what family they're in. So I'm going to pick up an instrument, and you guys tell me, virtually. I'm going to give you 3 seconds to figure out which one it is. Which one do you think it is? Is it woodwind? Is it brass? Is it strings? Or is it percussion? Which one is it? So let's start off right here. Let me grab a big one. This is called the baritone. And I want you to think, does it use air or does it not use air? Because if it uses air, it's either a woodwind or a brass instrument? Remember, woodwinds have holes. Brass instruments do not. They only have two, the one you blow in and the one where it comes out. So, take a guess. Which one is it? I'm going to give you 3 seconds. If you guessed that this is a brass, you're correct. It's metal. I should use my ring finger. You can hear that metal. It has the mouthpiece that you blow into, and it has the bell where it comes out. And how we change note on these brass instruments are these. They're called the valves. That's because they work like valves in a car. When they go up and down, they change where the air comes out. So we're going to blow into it. It comes down here, wraps around, and it's going into the valves. So if I push down this first valve, instead of going straight through, it's going to get longer and go through this valve right here. It makes it that much longer. If I push down this one, it's going to go through this one and make it longer. And if I push down this one, it goes down through the really long one. And if I push nothing through, or push nothing down, it just goes right through. Boop, goes out the other side and done. So when we make it longer by adding the valves, it gets lower. Take a look. And you'll notice I can change the notes by using my lips. Take a look. I'm not going to push anything down. I can make it go up and down. So brass players can change the note with their lips and their hands, and they're doing both at the same time to change the right note. Let's pick a new instrument. We'll put this in the brass pile back here. How about this one? Think about it. Do we blow into it to make a sound? If so, it would be a brass or a woodwind. If not, it's going to be a percussion or strings. 3 seconds. If you guess strings, you're correct. This is a string instrument. It's got 4 strings. It's called a baritone ukulele, and you'll notice the higher I get on the fretboard, it's going to get higher and higher. So, lower we get on the fretboard, I said higher earlier, that was my fault. Lower we get on the fretboard, the higher it goes. Cool. Let me go put this in the string pile. We'll make our string pile right here. Let's pick another one. The flute. All right, think about it. Do we blow into it? If so, it's a woodwind or it's a brass. If not, it's percussion or strings. What do you think? What family? Go ahead and take 3 seconds. If you guessed woodwinds, you're correct. It's not wood. It doesn't have a reed, but it does have holes. Do you see those hidden holes right there? They have holes going all up and down the instrument, just like this. Except we have these big, large, what we call keys that cover up the holes. You see how one will cover up 2? And as we add more, it covers more holes. So I'm going to play a little bit of flute. And you're going to notice as I add more holes closed going down, it's going to get lower. Pretty cool. Woodwind, even though it's metal, it doesn't have a reed, but it does have these holes. So that's our flute. It's a woodwind. Why don't I go add it to the pile of woodwinds back here? Let's pick another. Let's pick another big one. This is the trombone. Trombone. All right, take a look at this thing. Does it use wind? Does it not use wind? Does it use wind? Brass or woodwinds? If it doesn't, it's percussion or strings. 3 seconds. What family is the trombone? If you guessed brass, you're correct. It has the mouthpiece where we blow into, and it has the bell. And you probably noticed too that it is made of metal also. Unlike the baritone where we have those valves, the way you make the trombone longer is really simple. We just make it longer. Look at that. I can make the pipe longer and it makes it lower. And again, I can change the pitch with my lips as well. I'm going to keep the slide in. And if we're doing both, I can really change up the notes and play something like... Or I'm thinking of a YouTube video that came out a little while ago. I don't know if I remember how to play it. There it is. Oh, I can't remember how to play it. I'm sorry, guys. It's the one that goes ba ba da ba 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 da ba 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 ba. Let me try one more time. Trombone, very fun instrument, very powerful instrument with the slide. Let's pick a new instrument. I'm going to put this in the brass pile right next to our baritone. I haven't even done that. Well, let's do this over here. What do you think? Do I use air on this? If not, it's going to be a string or a percussion. If I do, it's a brass or a woodwind. So what do you think? 3, 2, 1. If you guess percussion, you're correct because we use drumsticks and we hit the instrument, making it percussion. Anything we hit or strike is a percussion instrument. This is a snare drum. And the reason they call it a snare drum, it's a drum, but it has these snares on bottom. And you can hear me talking right next to it. You hear the snares from my voice being activated. So anytime we hit it, it also makes that sound. Watch what happens if I turn off the snares on this. Now the snares aren't on it. It's going to sound like this. Oop. Still on. Just sounds like a normal drum. I'm going to turn the snares back on. And that's why we call it a snare drum. It has a different sound. Let me put this back here in the percussion corner over here. So it's our percussion instruments. Pick something else off the table. Let's pick this one. All right, we have another instrument. I want you to think, do we use air? If it does, then it's going to be a brass or a woodwind. If not, it's going to be a string of percussion. 3, 2, 1. If you guess string, you are correct. This is a violin. And we do not pluck it Well, violinists do. In certain songs they might pluck. But for the most part, we use a bow. And what the bow is if we look close, it's just a bunch of strings. So when we bow across with the strings of the bow on the string, it makes it vibrate just like if we plucked it. But if you want to hold out a pluck for a long time, you can't. Pluck, and it goes away. So if we want to hold out a note on a string, we can get a bow. Ah. We can make that work. And that's our violin. Beautiful instrument. It is a string instrument. It has a bow. And we're going to go put this in the string category over here with our ukulele, because they both have strings. Let's take this one. Let's take a look at this. Once again, I want you to use those detective skills to figure out what instrument family this would be. Do we blow into it? If so, is it a woodwind or a brass? Do we not blow into it? Is it a string or percussion? Remember, percussion we hit to make a sound. If you guessed woodwind, you are correct. This is a clarinet, and you'll see it's one of those instruments that has a reed. This is just a piece of wood that they carve up with a knife to make it into this shape, and that's how it makes it sound. Without the reed, will not work. Let's take a listen. You're going to see again, it has holes. Look really close. There's holes underneath those keys. And the reason they have a key and a hole is, do you see it? When I push down the hole, it makes the key go down, which makes that hole go down. Same thing over here. So we have holes making it a woodwind, and we also have a wood reed making it a woodwind, and this is also made of wood. If you look really close, you can see the wood grains. So this is a true woodwind instrument. It's made of wood, has a reed, and it's full of holes. And remember, as I get lower on the holes, it gets lower. That's another woodwind, our clarinet. Let's go put it in the woodwind pile over here next to the flute. The next instrument is not going to be on this table because it's over there. So let me see if I can turn this camera nice and steady. This looks totally different from all the others. So what the heck do you think it might be? I want to use those detective skills again. Do we blow air into it? If so, is it a woodwind or a brass? Does look like it has wood on there. If we don't blow into it, it's going to be percussion or strings. Let's find out. I've got sticks, so it sure looks like I'm going to be hitting this thing. If you guessed percussion, you would be correct. We use these yarn mallets. We call them mallets, not drumsticks. Yarn mallets on that which is called a marimba. It's like a giant xylophone, right? But it gets very, very low. We have lots of keys, so if we keep going, very low. That's a percussion instrument. We hit it, it makes a sound. It is percussion. We got one last instrument on the table. Let's take a look. Do we blow into it? If so, is it a woodwind or a brass? If we don't blow into it, string or percussion? If you guess brass, you're correct. It is metal, mouthpiece, we blow into, bell where it comes out, and just like the baritone, it has these valves. That's our trumpet right there. This is technically a cornet. Cornets are pretty much a trumpet. They're just a little bit shorter like this. That's why it looks a little short. Brass instrument. Has a bell, mouthpiece, metal. Let's go put it with the baritone and the trombone back here. And way over in the corner, I have our last instrument. And I said I would explain what's going on with this particular instrument. And it's over there in the corner, if it'll focus. There we go. And it's our piano. I bet everybody knows this one. But this one's kind of tricky. Because in real pianos, on the inside, there are strings on the inside. So when I hit a key, on the inside of that's an electric piano, so it's made digitally, but on a real piano, there's a little hammer inside and it hits a string. Bam. So when I hit a key, a little hammer inside, boom, hits a string. So we have to wonder, is it a string instrument because it has strings? Or is it a percussion instrument because you're hitting the keys? In order to make it work, you have to push the keys down. So what the heck would we put it in? Well, they decided it's a percussion instrument. And that's because to make the sound, you have to push it. So they think about how it's made. Since we push it down, we strike it, that's a percussion instrument. And instead of carrying that big heavy thing over there and putting in the percussion pile, we're just going to pretend because I don't want to throw my back out. I'm too old, right? That's our families, ladies and gentlemen. We've got our woodwinds over here. Remember, they have holes in them. They can be made of wood. And they can have a reed, which is the little wood piece that goes on it. We have our strings. Strings can have strings on them. If they are strung, they have strings. That's a string instrument. We have our brass, usually made of metal. It has the end where you blow into and the bell and no holes on it, unlike the woodwind. And finally, our percussion, anything we hit to make a sound. Anything we hit or strike to make a sound. Thanks for hanging in with me, guys. And thanks for helping me organize. I got to get organized here. And I'll be seeing you in the future.